All right there, everyone. I am joined here once again by the real estate rock star, J Scott Scheel. You may have seen Scott on Fox Business Channel. He's a frequent contributor to the Stuart Varney program, where he shows off his expertise in global finance and investing, and expertise that he's kind enough to share with us today. So, Scott, it is an honor to have you back with us, man. It's great to be chatting with you again.
Thank you. It's really great to be here with you, Doc. I mean, you guys are doing some amazing stuff, and we are marching right in line with the ideologies that you're trying to bring back to the forefront of culture, because boy, it makes a difference. And as we all know, and as we're living each and every day, elections have consequences, and those consequences have massive repercussions in the real lives of our American citizens, and really the citizens around the world that rely upon American leadership to steady what is a fairly unstable world.
Well, absolutely. And I should begin. You're a man of faith, family, and freedom. And I hear on a personal note that your tribe has grown since we last talked. Is that correct?
Yes, it has. Thank you for acknowledging and bringing that up. We welcomed our sixth child, little girl. Valentina Victoria, which means valiant and victorious. And she's beautiful. She is 1 month old yesterday. So her and mom are doing great. And God continues to bless our family mightily.
God bless her. God bless you guys. That's wonderful. Number 6. Absolutely beautiful. That's actually a very interesting pivot into what I wanted to start off with you. Some questions about the difference between red states and blue states. You're like I said, real estate rock star. And what I love about real estate investors, we were actually just talking about this a little bit before where our interview here, you're generally devoid of economic abstractions. You're very tied to land, to real estate, right? Tangible land, tangible assets and like. When we survey the United States politically, we are divided more or less, like the whole world sees that we're divided between so-called red states and blue states, right? Red states being conservative, blue states being liberal. How do you see that political divide impacting the unique economies of red states and blue states? Do you see a difference economically between what's happening in red states and what's happening in blue states?
Well, it's a wonderful question, and the differentiation couldn't be more stark.
Wow.
The valuations in states that are not necessarily respecting property rights, that are going wild with tax and spend, that are really undermining the fabric of the fixed asset class, is what we like to call it when you talk about, real estate or hard assets. And then the attack, whether it's happening at a state level or a federal level, it's palpable. And these are things that are really the bedrock of the stabilization of the overall U.S. economy. $72 trillion worth of value is in the residential housing market, and another $30 trillion of the U.S. net worth is in the commercial real estate assets. So those are meaningful numbers, and the support and service industries, whether it's construction or whether it's management or whether it's finance, all of those industries play such a huge role that are interwoven into the overall fabric that is our economy. Now, when we talk about the difference between red states and blue states, boy, I'll tell you, there has been such a delayed effect caused by what we've done with the stimulus. And those stimulus dollars have caused really there to be, let's call it zombie economies out there walking around, economies that are long since dead. They just don't know it yet. And they don't have the appearance of the downside that is about to befall them. But the housing markets are in trouble in nearly every state in the union. But the bellwether states of Texas and Florida, because of their political climates, they are likely to be some of the least impacted, because people are going there for political purposes.
Right.
When you talk about states like California, there's an exodus from businesses. There's an exodus from a just a population standpoint.
Right. Right.
And they're becoming really untenable as far as how folks can survive within them. But even some of the lesser kind of known or implicated blue states, Minnesota is a state that I work within pretty frequently. Boy, I have to tell you, well, their politics have literally begun to gut what has been outside investment, the ambition of folks to be there. I know so many individuals whose businesses have been impacted, again, by the stripping away of just basic rights and freedoms of individuals and businesses to be able to succeed in those marketplaces. And so, at the risk of trying to polarize, it really is a kind of a precursor to any investment decision that we make, is to discuss the likely trajectory of the legislature of those states. And it's again, it's a major divide. We are not, I think the one state that we're doing, a fair amount in, there's two of them that, one of them is historically blue in Massachusetts.
Right.
And what we're doing there is we're succeeding on a governmental level, right? We're working for and serving a growing government. And so,
Right.
From that perspective, economically it's panning out for us, but, from a tax standpoint, they're on their way to becoming Chicago, Illinois, which has completely undermined their own economic infrastructure. The taxation there and the deployment of it is literally gutting that once great city. And, folks just simply can't survive there. And then when it comes down to not just taxation and not just the way that they're doing things, but what's attracting businesses, no one's going to those locations really the way that they were before. We're seeing the growth in the red states because businesses are wise to not only the talent pool that they're going to work with, but also how the statewide governments are going to support them moving forward.
Right. Yeah. Moving forward is key too, right? Because with the blue state, you have no idea who's going to be coming in next. And they could be these radical, Bernie Sanders types and the like. You mentioned California. I read it's a net loss of 100,000 residents every year for the last 15 years. I mean, they've lost electoral college vote. They've lost a couple of, if I recall, representative seats in Congress. Same with Illinois, same with New York. And yet we're seeing in red states, it's the opposite. They're getting electoral votes. They're gaining representatives in Congress. So obviously, so in other words, it's not just mere coincidence that people are leaving blue states and going to red states. The country as a whole economically is turning red in a sense, isn't it? It's moving. It truly is.
It truly is. And what you're seeing there is, those that are pro business, pro growth, pro development, that are supporting the ambitions of bringing jobs and bringing economic opportunity, even when it comes to, dealing in core central business districts, right? A lot less projects are happening in places like New York City than you would imagine. But, those opportunity zone, let's say projects are finding a home in many red states because, again, it's not just the, let's say the tax incentive that would come from an opportunity zone project, but it's really the gravity and the inertia, the other things that are happening within those communities that are spurring that development. So, over the next decade, we really are discerning quite strongly that political climate is one of the chief economic indicators as to whether or not you're going to have sustained success. Because in an opportunity zone project, you have to remain in it for 10 years in order to manifest the full benefit. So 10 years from now, if you're tacking in the wrong direction, you're going to be way off course. And so you may end up owning something where you don't have a massive capital gains tax because you did it in an area of need. But do you even want to own it if it ends up becoming San Francisco?
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Just in an imploding model, as it were. And it's interesting too, because what are the areas of study I've gotten into, and this is where your latest blessing kind of kicks in here, is the difference in fertility rates, ironically, between blue states and red states. Trump won in states that have, on average, I understand, a 15% fertility advantage over and against the blue states. Exurban, rural populations have a 300% fertility advantage over urban populations. So, it's funny because Elon Musk just, it is, because Elon Musk just talked about that. The major problem in the world today is not overpopulation, it's underpopulation. So do you see that factoring into the economic difference as well, that sort of a flourishing population is going to make a huge difference in the next 10 years as over and against a shrinking and contracting one?
Yeah, I appreciate that question. And that's the first time I think anybody has posed it to me, but I have strong opinions about it. No doubt about it. And I think I was observing the interview that you, I think, referred to with Elon Musk. He was talking with Jack Ma about really the problem is population collapse. It's not overpopulation. Right. And when you take a look at the politics that you will see in progressive liberal states, it's not about protecting the rights of children or infants. It's about going ahead and continuing to encroach upon those and to discourage families from multiplying and adding them out. And people look at me today with a family of 6 and my wife and my children like we're a unicorn. And you're
Amish. Can you build us one of those wooden fireplaces?
Yeah. And 100 years ago, this was a small family. This was what you would expect. You can't run a self-sustaining, let's say a farming operation with less than 6 people. I mean, that's the bare minimum you could get it done with. Right. So we absolutely see that as a huge stimulator because, a graying population doesn't spend and they don't consume. Right. I mean, the largest cycle of consumption happens from mid-20s all the way through mid-40s when you're, getting those necessary staple items, homes, cars, you're buying cribs and you're raising children and you're doing all of those things. And without
insurance, everything. Yeah.
And you're seeing what's happening. You're seeing the effect of that in, in a country like China, which, people would have thought there's literally no way you're going to see a decline. They're going to be on an upward trajectory. And to be honest with you, the global narrative of the fact that people are a problem is a problem in and of itself. It's preposterous that we are the problem. And I will tell you that it's funny because, I will look at the folks and where they live, those that are criticizing us in the Midwest about how we need to manage an environment. Well, look, my environment is gorgeous. It is green. It is lush. It is flourishing. We don't have water problems. We don't have mudslides and forest fires. We don't have those things because we understand what it is to respect nature. We understand how it is to be in harmony with nature. We have, thousands and tens of thousands of acres of green space that are just naturally occurring, as opposed to those who would overbuild and, overtax the environment. And so people aren't the problem at all. What it is poor leadership. And that poor leadership has just a god-awful argument about why it is and why the things that are happening are occurring. We believe that people are the solution and that more population is not only what sustains us, but it's what's going to create the model that gives rise and birth to the new ideas in a forward-looking economy where we can truly trust that we are interdependent on one another. Right? I mean, if we end up with a very gray population as is promoted, how are you going to sustain yourself? And that's what we see in countries that have already done so much with population control, with abortion, with the one child policy, things of that nature. So, the biggest indicator for success in real estate is population growth. It's the number one thing you look for. Is there population growth, and is there new jobs? With those two things, pro business, pro population growth. Well, that is your surest way, because when it all comes down to it, and I know they try and make it seem mystical, and I've studied macroeconomics and global economic policies for 30 years, as I know you're a huge fan of those types of things, and certainly a great student of that. It almost always comes down to one core, and that is supply and demand. And if you have an oversupply and you have no demand, then forget it. But if you have demand, and demand is created by population, well, then the economic wheel keeps on turning, it keeps growing, and it keeps creating that inertia that we talk about. And so if I'm going to buy an asset, I've got to make sure that I'm going to have demand for it, that people are going to be able to afford it, and that it's going to be an area that's desirable. And so that's how I am planning for my children to take over a portfolio and a legacy that we're building for them. And that's what I encourage all of those clients that we work with. I don't care about the asset itself. It could be a great building, it could be in a decent location, but where is it going to be?
Right.
You know, as you amortize that debt, pay it down, and own it free and clear. Once you own it, are you going to be happy that that asset is where you have invested?
Yeah, it is in a sustaining context, a self-sustaining context. So, well, in a nutshell, Scott, are we going to be hitting a recession? Are we seeing a 2008 recession again? What do you see coming up, and do you think it's going to be different? The impact of whatever is on the horizon is different for blue states versus red states.
So it's a great question. Again, you're chock full of them today. If I were to be on a short time cycle, I would say yes. Not only are we headed for a recession, but we're actually already in one. Okay. It's just not been reported yet. It's obvious. There is contraction. There is pent up demand, no doubt. There's capital on the sidelines, but supply chain's so disrupted. The workforce and the labor force is really underrepresented. I think a 3% unemployment statistic is about as crooked of a statistic as we could present. Yeah. It just isn't true. It's a great talking point for those who are trying to sustain political control.
The best economy we've had historically, I think, is the term they were using in the press spin box. But the last,
yeah. And is there anyone, you know, with the brain stronger than that of the Tin Man who could believe that? It's ridiculous. And so we are in recession now. Here, there are things that I think could be done to ease it. Right. So a little bit of break right now with the Federal Reserve raising interest rates and starting to risk rate our economy is warranted. Right. Unimpeded values rising, supply chain demand, capital coming into markets with massive leverage with banks that are woefully undercapitalized is a problem. But if they take it too far, if they do what Alan Greenspan did, 17 consecutive quarterly increases, and now we're talking about, you know, maybe as many as 7 to 9 increases in 2022 of interest rates, that is hitting the brakes too hard, too fast. And we know what happens to those items that are in that vehicle when you slam on those brakes. They destabilize, they spill, and there's going to be a lot of collateral damage for that. And we see it because it's not just that we're raising interest rates and we're slowing the demand for, let's call it, stabilized, well-performing assets, but we still have to deal with the glut of assets that are almost assuredly devalued and in default now that we're starting to measure those again because the moratoriums for the pandemic have been lifted. So all of that reporting is coming in, and it's not going to show up until early third quarter and fourth quarter, and it's going to be more bloody balance sheets. It's going to be more red ink. There's not a single central business district office building that in 2019 had occupancy that is improved really today. Those are backwards. Rents are down. Values are down. Hospitality was devastated for 2 years, and these are the bedrock assets that CMBS, commercial mortgage-backed securities, and your major financial banking institutions back to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars, and they're only now starting to be turned back in. BlackRock's turning in assets, you know, losing hundreds of millions of dollars on just one building alone. And when we talk about the thousands of assets that don't have a home for new debt, and the fact that the banks are tightening their underwriting standards, it is going to be a stranglehold on the marketplace that is going to cause a lot of devastation. So what we preach is, even today, even though interest rates have already risen from where they were at 3.5% to say 5.5%, which is a 60% increase in the cost of capital, which from an operating standpoint crushes values. It crushes values because of debt coverage ratios that are inherently important in loan amounts. And loan amounts and their loan to value ratios start to drop those values down, well, then we start to deal with competitive evaluations, right? What did that building sell for? Well, this one was worth 100 million, but the one that's like it now just sold for 30 million. Well, how do we reconcile that delta? And historically, both banks and appraisers are not good at figuring that out. So they just go conservative, and then values plummet. So then you can't go out and get the replacement debt, which means that folks are ending up hitting the mat. It isn't pretty. And whether that's in the housing market, which you just go ahead and read the smattering of headlines that are out there in the last several days. We've been telling people what's coming for 2 years. As soon as they took the window dressing off of the artificially stimulated economy, it wasn't going to be there the way that it was, and it's not. The markets are softening in almost all areas for housing. Demand is coming down, and what they're touting is, hey, lumber's down. Well, that's not great, because lumber isn't the only thing. The problem is that the developers have gone in so heavy to try and meet what they thought was pent-up demand, but the pent-up demand was stimulated by easy capital. Easy capital's gone. Now the demand's not there.
Right.
The money's already spent. Not good.
Right. And that fits exactly with what you were saying earlier about the sustainability, self-sustainability over 10 years or so, not just these quick fixes. So now again, you are a huge advocate of commercial real estate. So absolutely. Where, as an investor, where does commercial real estate fit in with all this, especially versus, say, residential?
So what we look at in residential, again, we're speaking in generalities or global discussions. And I don't mean like worldwide discussions, but when we speak about things, we talk about an overall market, broad brushstroke. But reality is that in all asset classes, there are still quality transactions that can be found. And in commercial real estate, what we look for is not the stuff that people have been buying at a feverish clip where they've driven prices so high. We're looking into those areas where there's been less demand, that have been, let's call it, the non-favored asset classes. And this is such a unique time, Steve. What we're dealing with here is the asset classes that are not favored today are Class A hospitality. So because we're coming out of a pandemic and people were unable to travel, so many of those asset classes that for 30 years would have been the gold standard are not they don't have the balance sheet performance or the profit and loss statement performance over the last 36 months. So their valuations they're dented for another 36 months because 3 years of historic performance will matter. The central business district office, and then core retail in the best demographics in the best markets. Those are all down. Those are at historically high cap rates, which means you can buy them for greater returns as an investor. And then the asset classes that are really overvalued, in my humble opinion, are the multifamily asset classes, the single family real estate market, the storage facilities or mobile home parks, all of those, even industrial, although industrial is a little more insulated because there was so little of it built for so many decades that the new stuff that's coming into the market is going to be fantastic, and it's got a great chance of absorption. But the legacy assets in the industrial category, the stuff that was built in the 60s and 70s, that really doesn't stack up to the needs today for logistics and distribution. When you're talking about 16-foot ceiling heights instead of 40-foot, when you're talking about small square footages or underdeveloped infrastructure with electrical capacities, things of that nature, those old buildings that are, because they're industrial category, people are chasing them and they're throwing crazy money at them, have really had a run up in values. That's not sustainable, but the new product is going to be excellent. So we focus on Class A hospitality, central business district office, because it can be gotten at a song right now. A lot of that's not going to remain office in the future. It's going to be adaptive reuse to hospitality, to central business district housing, those types of things. And then that core retail, that's already been priced down. It's been revalued for the last 6 or 7 years. So I can buy the most well-located, best infrastructure assets surrounded by great roadways, great demographics, people with good jobs, people who are consumers who have the money. And as long as I go ahead and change the use of that asset, I'm buying infrastructure that I would spend $500 to $1,000 a square foot to replace, and I'm buying it for $5 to $10 a foot.
Wow. 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 Well, I don't know if you know, but I've been following you, your escapades, as it were, from a bit of a distance. I think we're co-investors in a commercial property in Vegas.
I heard about that. That was brought to my attention from Ralph the other day. And, we love having you on board. It's a great property. It was built in '06. It has, all the outward signs of an absolute success. And the reality of it is that it's been poorly managed, right? They didn't do a great job managing it. So our ability to step in and, let's call it gentrify the facility, which is really just cosmetics. It's better, it's better, better surface level cosmetics. And then our ability to compete in the marketplace because we bought it right. Boy, I'll tell you, I'm not the lead sponsor on that one. I'm also a partner in that one. Right. The team that's running point on that one, you're going to be real pleased.
Well, I'm very excited. I know we've been talking a lot over the last couple of years, and I thought I got to do this at some point. So I took the leap. So people are watching here. I know there's several, they would like to take the leap in terms of investing in commercial real estate. So, Scott, what kind of guidance do you generally offer to others in mentoring them in these amazing opportunities here?
Well, what I'll tell people is that this is the moment in time we've actually been waiting for. It sounds bad, like, wait, Scott, you're telling me the market's been great for the last decade and you're waiting for this? Well, make no mistake about it. We've done really well. We've had a wonderful run since the market really started to correct in 2009. And it's been literally almost a straight upward trajectory of value creation. And yet within the last 3 to 5 years, we've had to take a step back and say, well, look, if we're going to be strategic and we're going to get in, we're going to acquire, we're going to improve, and we're going to get out, that's what the last 3 to 5 years has been. But this season that we're in right now, for everyone who's listening, this is the time to buy. You buy when values are low, right? You don't buy when people are going crazy and they're spending wild and money's easy.
The FOMO, the fear of missing out, right? Yeah.
And it drives me crazy because so many people paint themselves into a corner. So what we do is we tailor our programs to the individual, right? Everyone's at different stage of life, different stage of career. They have different ambitions, different needs, different wants. But commercial real estate can be tailored to, let's say, someone like yourself who's incredibly busy. You've got so many, press requests, you've got, media requests, you're traveling, you're educating, you're promoting, you're putting your shows on, you're sponsoring political campaigns. You guys are out there educating people and then you're running your own life. You got your own family. So you don't have, let's say, 40, 50 hours a week to go out there and start to build a portfolio brick by brick. Well, there are very specific strategies that you can employ that allow you to be an active investor getting those active benefits, but you don't have to be the person who's doing every single element of the job. We'll sign a lease with a retail tenant and that lease will pay us for 10 years. Now it takes a little bit of work to get it done. It might be 6 months. It might be some real upfront investment, but the way that pays off over a period of time is fantastic. When we talk about, sustained serving of the marketplace, right? Finding a need in a commodity-based asset class where you're definitely going to be getting those run-ups in value based upon the fact that we know that the cost of living is going to increase because inflation is what inflation is. Well, that's a way to create value. So you can even pay full market today for a quality asset in a good location, good market that's well constructed. And over time, that's going to do some really special things for people. And then there's others who need to make money right away and they've got to get in and they need to be with surgical precision, again, getting in and creating value. And so whether you're in your 20s, your 40s, your 60s, whether you already made it, you're looking for shelters, or whether you're trying to make it, or whether you have, college or retirement to plan for, we give very specific guidance on the folks who come in. We put them through a very specific series of questions that we will ask. We call it our customized strategy review intake. Those intakes usually take about an hour for us to review it with the client. Obviously, there's quarterly follow-ups that we'll do thereafter. but it's based upon a painstaking, call it personal inventory that each individual is requested to put their full selves into. The more honest you are with yourself, the more direct and focused we can be with the plan of action that we can provide. And then we marry folks up with a network of folks that are capable, that are doing it with track record, that have the tools, the resources, and the relationships that can work in literally every market. We're in all provinces in Canada. We're in all 50 states here in the US. We are in all categories and food groups of commercial real estate. If you're looking to do it, regardless of where you're at, how you're starting, we can help plug you in and get you in an environment where you're surrounded by individuals that understand where you're at and can help you create the future of your design. And that's really what I think has sustained us for the last couple of decades.
That's so wonderful. And again, I feel privileged to be blessed to be a bit of a part of this. So can you just tell us, how could people learn more, dive deeper? Just
contact us. There's a link that we've got to a webinar that we've got coming up. You can click on that link. That link will take them through about a 90-minute presentation that really does give them that introduction to commercial real estate. It lets them know a little bit of my story, my background. It talks to them about the specific strategies, and we'll go through what we call our 7 moves to checkmate. There are 7 steps that everyone must take if they want to be involved in commercial real estate. You can't shortcut it. You got to do them all. But when you do it, the paydays are extraordinary. They will help people create in 1 to 2 years what normally takes, if you're successful, 1 to 2 decades to create. And it's repeatable. It's something that if you want to set it on autopilot and just let 1 or 2 deals just run the show, you can do that. Or you can do it as frequently as you like, over and over and over again. We teach people how to do it in diverse markets, in their backyard. We specifically tell them, start investing where you want to retire, because it's great to have that soft landing and that golden parachute where you have all of these assets in the market that you want to reside in at the end, that are going to continue to support you and the family that's likely to follow you to paradise.
Amen. Wow, gang. Well, for those of you who are looking to be financially independent, I mean, this may be the beginning of the rest of your life. I've done it myself. It's amazing working alongside Scott, and you can do it too. So click on that link below right now. Let the journey begin. Scott, thanks so much, man, for taking some time to talk with us. God bless you on your increasing tribe. It's always wonderful to chat with you.
Thank you so much. I gratefully appreciate the blessings that you bestow upon us. Thank you for the work that you're doing to really make our country better. More voices such as yours are really what we need. And anything that we can do to encourage and support both my reach, our constituency, my clients to support you, what you're doing, it is a true gift. You are a warrior on behalf of so many, and it means the world to us. And anytime I can do this, it's a gift to me. But it always feels like we're running so short on time. Anytime you need me, my friend. God bless.
Oh, thank you, Scott. God bless you.